Welcome to this session. This is our fifth session together on Bhagavad-gita systematic study. And we have been dwelling on the topic of dharma and adharma. In the last class, we saw this slide, how the word dharma is used. Colloquially, normally in society, we talk about dharma we identified 5 different ways. One is the natural inherent property of something, just like sugar, sweetness is the natural inherent property, and so on. The second way in which we talk about dharma is a natural tendency or behavior that's innate. Like for a tiger, it is natural to hunt and attack and eat the flesh of another animal. And for a cow, it is natural to eat grass and graze. The third meaning in which we use dharma is responsibility, kartavyata or uttaradaitva, according to our position role. The fourth meaning is lawfulness, nyayikatva, that is abiding by rules, the local law or religious injunctions and so on. And finally, morality in general, like being honest, not cheating somebody else, not stealing from someone, etc. So, 5 different ways in which the word dharma is used, and these have come from the fundamental meaning of the word dharma, which we saw in this shloka. Dharanat dharma ityahuhu dharmo dharayate prajaha yasyat dharana sanyuktaha sadharma iti katyate. That which sustains. The meaning of dharma comes from dharana, from the dhatu dhr, and it means support, sustenance. So, in general, something that sustains for long. When I say sustains, not just that it exists, but it gives well being. It sustains it the way it should be. So, it's not like you can say somebody remains alive. Somebody remaining alive is not what I mean by sustain. Somebody remaining happy and for long. So there are patients who are lying in the hospital or lying at home for years together. They are sustained by some ventilator or whatever, some condition, they are lying paralyzed or whatever, but they cannot do anything and they are mentally also not peaceful. For years together, you find sometimes people just existing. It's a very sorry state and it can happen to anyone. Old age is a difficult time for anyone. Now, that kind of a state, sometimes people who are young also are experiencing because of improper habits, improper lifestyle. Now, that is not what we mean by sustained. It means it remained alive. Today, it has come to that. I'm seeing media articles talking about people, he has lived so long. So, living long is considered an achievement, not how they are living or what kind of a life they are experiencing. So that's not what we mean by sustained existence. We mean sustained well-being, being happy, being content, and progressing in consciousness. That is the meaning of dharma. Dharma is that which makes us progress and keeps us content, happy for a sustained period of time. So this we saw in the last class. Now from here we stopped, and so I wanted to list a few points. I'll just say this too, and then we can take the questions. So dharma is that which leads to, for both oneself and for others, sustained well-being, plus purification of consciousness, not just being happy, but also experiencing better consciousness over time. Consciousness gives happiness, and better consciousness gives more happiness. So, purification of consciousness, and which in turn leads to better state of future existence. When I say future existence, I mean both in a given lifetime as we live and in future lifetimes. After this life is over, what is the next life we go to? That is what we also mean by better state of existence. So it is described, understood, and practiced through one is behavior, the behavior that we exercise through our thoughts, manasika, through our words, what we speak, vachika, and bodily deeds or kayika. So manasika, vachika, and kayika, these are 3 different dimensions of our behavior. Okay, behavior is not only bodily behavior, like normally in OB or HR, we talk about behavior, there it refers to typically bodily behavior, actions performed explicitly that others can see. But here, manasika, that also is behavior. That is something that we do to our thoughts, our contemplation. And then, of course, vachika, others can hear it, but sometimes they cannot. We mutter. We may curse somebody without them hearing it. That also. That's also included in vachika. So all these three are forms of behavior. And dharma this is one way in which dharma is, operationalized, how it is experienced. The second is in relations that we have with others in society. Samajika, vyavaharika. So it's not only about how we behave, but naturally our behavior has an impact on how we relate with others in society. So when I say relations with others in society, I don't necessarily mean somebody who is very socially active. What is called as socially active has a lot of people, in connection. They keep continuously interacting with them regularly with messaging. Today it's all messaging, but having, visiting people, people visiting them, a lot of friendships. I don't necessarily mean that. What I mean here essentially is the nature of the relationship. Do we have a good, healthy, long-term relationship, even if we don't interact much with people? We interact very occasionally only, but then whenever we interact with them in a way that is very healthy, very positive, uh, not offensive to anybody, either to oneself or to the other person, and pleasant and stable, something that will continue for a long period of time. Third is, of course, adherence to law, rules, norms, being very conscious, being sensitive, not just following because of fear, but following because of respect. Following, saying that, I am responsible. I should follow. If I follow, then I have a, adhikar to say the others should also follow. And I have, I'm right. I'm right in following all the rules, and therefore I feel good about it. Person who follows the rules because they feel good about following them, that is dharma. So these are all different ways in which it's explicitized. And finally, the highest meaning of dharma is, or you can say the operationalization of dharma is the pursuit of God, pursuit of one's real self, adhyatmika, paramarthika, that is pursuit of God, existence, and going towards that higher universal being in whatever way we understand God. So these are ways in which dharma, manava dharma, is actually operationalized. I'm saying manava dharma because this is not the way that animals operationalize their dharma. For animals, there's no inquiry into dharma. For them, it is just instinct. They live by the way that they are designed, that body and mind are designed to be in some way, and the animal lives by that. We don't see, for example, a tiger going and grazing and eating the grass that cows eat. We don't see cows hunting other animals and killing them and eating the flesh of those animals. They do what they have been designed to, and all of them do that without being they don't need to be taught to do that. They don't need to be told. They don't need to read a book on, say, Go Dharma. You don't need to know that. Go doesn't have to read a book on Go Dharma to become a dharmic. The Go is designed to be that way and she follows that. Human beings have to be trained. Human beings, because they have intelligence, our intelligence makes a choice that I'll follow this, I'll follow that. And so we need to be told what to follow. And that is why Manava Dharma is a special word. And we have so much Shastra to help us understand Manava Dharma. Good. Now, before I go forward, there's a lot more to cover on this, but we will first look at the questions and the comments which came from the last class. I have Ashita's file open. I received it in the morning, so I couldn't answer it earlier, but now we will go through it. Karma Yoga is connecting with God through one's work. It's derived from one's occupation, work, and social position. A person is not attached to the outcome associated with karma. Yeah. So question is, how is it different from the colloquial concept of karma that we talk about? So Ashita, what is that? What do you mean by this colloquial concept of karma?
So there is this karma theory that if we will do good deeds, good thing will happen to us. If we will do bad things, bad things will happen with us.
Um,
So how that karma is different from the karma yoga that we talk about?
Karma in karma yoga. Okay. Actually, what you are referring to is karma phalam. the result of karma. But karma is different from karma phalam. Karma leads to karma phalam. Phalam means the fruit, right? So when we do something, just like even if we don't talk about the word karma and karma phalam, in normal society in our life, our actions determine what we get from them. So if I do good work, for example, if I do my assignments properly in my FPM program and do my reading properly and contemplation and then the writing properly, eventually it will lead to me getting a paper in a good journal, right? That's the fruit of all the work that I did. In between, of course, there are intermediate fruits like the grades I get in the course or the appreciation I get from my teachers and colleagues. Those are all the intermediate fruits, but eventual fruit of that effort is a paper. And of course, for you in the program, the eventual fruit is the result that you get. That's the karma phalam. Similarly, uh, a more subtle phalam that we get is the punya or the papa. So that's so punya and papa are two, you can say, broad fruits that are described in our IKS literature. So all over, I mean, even I think the people who don't talk about God the way we talk about God, like Sankhya, for example, they also talk about karma phalam. Karma phalam is something that is common to the entire Vedic knowledge system. So whatever we do eventually leads to a desirable future outcome that is called punya. Punya means outcome that will be experienced in the future, which is pleasant, which is desirable, which gives happiness. And the opposite of that is the phalam, which gives misery in the future. So that which creates future misery is papa karma. That which creates uh, future happiness or well-being is punya karma. So broadly speaking, these are the two types of karma phalam. Now within them, how they come, that can be different. For example, somebody may get punya phalam through, that may actually fruit through getting a birth in a rich family in the future. Somebody else may get that same thing through being intellectually very capable, very, very brilliant, and so on. So that could be different. So here, when we talk about karma in Karma Yoga, we are talking about karma as activity, work, not about the fruit of work. Now, in yoga, in all yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, whichever yoga, yoga is directed towards coming out of samsara, right? We want to come out of samsara and get moksha. So, in the path of yoga, we do karma without the desire for the phalam. In fact, we don't want the phalam. Person who does karma yoga says, I don't want punya also. Not only that, I don't want papa. The person who follows dharma in general, samanya dharma, wants punya. He's doing dharma because he knows that by doing dharma, he'll get punya and he'll be able to avoid papa. If he does not do dharma or if he does adharma, then he gets papa karma. But by doing dharma, one gets punya karma. And so the motivation for doing dharma comes from the thought that by doing dharma, I'll earn a lot of punya and in future I'll have a even happier life. I'll be happy now when I follow dharma, no doubt. But at the end of it, I'll still get more happiness because of the punya that comes out of doing all this. So this is the thinking of samanya dharma. But in yoga, yoga is parodharma. In yoga, including karma is done with the thought that I don't want the punya also. Why? Because punya means that you have to take birth again. Punya means that you remain in samsara. But yoga is meant for coming out of samsara. Therefore, the person doing karma yoga does not want the punya phalam also. Not only does he not want the papa phalam, but he also doesn't want punya phalam. He just wants a purified consciousness. He wants his consciousness to become purer and purer, more and more pure, so that he can realize himself and realize God and the happiness which comes to that, which he has now learned is far superior to the happiness that even punya karma can give. That is why he is motivated to perform karma yoga. So, does it address your question? Are you able to see the difference between karma and karma phalam and so on?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll go to the second question. Can a person practice karma yoga? Is it achievable through bhakti yoga and jnana yoga? Well, anyone can practice karma yoga. Whether it's achievable through bhakti and jnana, no. Jnana is practiced after one reaches a stage by which one can hold one's mind, one is able to contemplate on the self, one has developed enough clarity about oneself, about one's true self, I'm saying, as the Jivatma, different from the body. One has developed enough refinement of consciousness, sattvic, one has become very sattvic, let me put it like that. And rajoguna, tamoguna have become much less in somebody. Okay, we will talk about the three gunas in much more detail in our next PPT, which is maybe the next session. But for now, let me say that Rajoguna, Tamoguna are the degrading gunas. So they are, they're removed by the practice of Karma Yoga. One becomes very sattvic. One goes to the stage of being very, very sattvic. And Rajoguna, Tamoguna come down. And then when one is sufficiently sattvic, then one becomes eligible to practice Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga comes later. Regarding bhakti, yes, some people they mix bhakti with karma yoga. Means as they do karma yoga, they think I'm doing bhakti. Whatever actually in karma yoga itself, the phala which comes, karma phala comes because even though somebody says I don't want punya when they do karma yoga, still punya comes because they're doing the karma according to dharma. They're following dharma and they're doing all the work that they're doing in accordance with dharma. And because of that, punya will come. So because punya comes, what they do, because they don't want it, they say, I offer this to God. Everything goes to Bhagavan. It's called Bhagavad-arpanam. Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu. So it's called Bhagavad-arpita Nishkama Karma Yoga. That's the full name of Karma Yoga. Everything that is earned through Karma Yoga is offered back to Bhagavan. A person keeps for themselves only what is required to sustain themselves in a stable way. So, some people they bring in the thought of bhakti that they think of themselves, I am a das of Bhagavan. This thinking of bhakti, which I spoke about earlier, they bring it into Karma Yoga and then they practice a mixed form of Bhakti Yoga, which is called Karma Mishra Bhakti, or you can say Bhakti Mishra Karma. The two are mixed with each other, but that is not required for Bhakti Yoga. Nor is it required for Karma Yoga in its purest state. Of course, the presence of Bhakti is important to both Jnana and Karma because unless there is some connection to God and the thinking that I am a servant of God or I am doing everything as seva, thinking of seva is there, both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga won't give their respective results. That is a basic fact. But apart from that, the way we talk about Bhakti Yoga, that is not either essential for Karma Yoga or nor is it that Bhakti Yoga leads to Karma Yoga. No. Bhakti Yoga subsumes Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is included in Bhakti Yoga. Have I said too much? I mean, have you understood what I wanted to say or Ashita
Understood, sir.
is clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
What factors facilitate Karma Yoga? Well, the first thing that is required for Karma Yoga is the desire that I should elevate myself. I should purify my consciousness. I should come out of, the mundane life. There is something beyond this mundane life. This basic realization is the starting point for even Karma Yoga. And of course, in the system where this kind of materialism that we see today is not present, where society was dominated by the Vedic thinking earlier, there too, the thinking that I don't want to just practice dharma for being happy. I want to go beyond this. I want to look for that higher happiness which the great sages are, talking about. So that is the basic thing. Apart from that, Karma Yoga is facilitated by a thorough commitment to being dharmic. Karma Yoga is essentially about doing one's karma very sincerely in accordance with dharma. There is nothing else. You don't have to leave society. In fact, those who follow Karma Yoga obviously don't leave society because karma is done in society in connection with all the others. Yes, Ashita, does it answer your question or you want to follow up with something more?
Yes, sir, it does answer.
Okay. Dhyana Yoga is connecting with God through self-knowledge, correct? So here I just wanted to say one thing that, see, when you are writing these words, these are all Sanskrit words written in English, like Jnana written here. I want you to try to follow the standard spellings used by the scholars. Like IKS scholars would write jnana as Jnana. What you have written here is janana, not jnana. And then they would also put that tilde symbol on top of the N, right? And on top of A, there's a bar. If you see the words way I'm spelling them, that's the way that the IKS scholars spell them. So I want you to learn that also as you go forward, so that you're going to work in IKS, so you should know these spellings and the way of writing them. So that will become part of your life. The question, is it the same as the transcendental self? Yeah, this is what the other scholars, when they write in English, they use the word transcendental. What they mean by transcendental, I think, is that it is beyond the three gunas of Prakriti, the sattva, rajas, tamas. It's beyond that. The self is not, either made of the three gunas, or it's not influenced by itself. By itself, it is pure. It has nothing to do with the three gunas. That's what they mean by transcendental. Is the concept of metacognition related to Jnana Yoga? So, Ashita, what do you mean by metacognition?
So metacognition is thinking about thinking.
Thinking about thinking. Yeah, I think that is part of any system of yoga, including karma yoga. In karma yoga, too, a person becomes very conscious of how they think, how they, what they are thinking about, um, whether their way of thinking and the state of the mind and so on, whether they are good for meditation. So these are thoughts in not only jnana yoga, in bhakti, karma, everything. Metacognition is very important. You want to say something more, ask something more connected to that?
So why will it be part of Karma Yoga as well? Because Jnana Yoga specifically talks about thinking, meditation,
Yeah, yeah.
and Karma Yoga is related to our actions, like we are not attached to the karma phal.
Yes.
So
So
why metacognition will be part of?
because where is that detachment present? We said just now, you said we are not attached to the karma phala. How does that come? It doesn't just come when you start karma yoga, not necessarily. You may have developed a desire to elevate yourself through karma yoga after hearing about it. You heard about it, you saw sages talking about it, but now you have to start practicing it. All this time you've been looking at the world in a different way, as a means to perform dharma and get punya and so on. So punya, or even other material mundane outcomes like money and so on, have been the normal focus of your life, like anybody else. But now that you are going towards becoming detached from the karma phalam, how does that happen? It happens through observing your own mind, because it's in our mind that we experience that attachment and detachment. Where do we experience it? In our thoughts, right? Through our thoughts. As our thoughts go towards the object of attachment, we know that we have an attachment. Similarly, when we know that my thoughts are no longer going in that direction, I'm no longer attracted to going to parties and this and that as I was earlier, a couple of years back. So when this realization comes, then we know that we are detached. So it is by observing the mind and thinking about our thinking that we cultivate detachment. Detachment has to be cultivated, it has to be nurtured through self talking, talking to ourselves in the mind, contemplating on our own thoughts and so on. That is why metacognition is important even in karma yoga. Does it
Yes, understood.
addressing? Yeah, okay, good. Yes, bhakti yoga is connecting with God through pleasing seva. Is gratitude related to bhakti yoga? See, in our Indian knowledge system, gratitude or kritagnyata is not talked about explicitly much, right? We talk about ahimsa, we talk about satya, we talk about asteya, we talk about dana, we talk about yajna, we talk about so many things, but we rarely find, or very, very, I have not never really seen so much talking about kritagnyata. Whereas in the Western system, there's a lot of talk about gratitude, writing gratitude in a journal, journaling your gratitude every day, getting up in the morning and thinking of gratitude. This is simply because gratitude is inbuilt into all activities of dharma. Dharma's essence is gratitude. It's in dharma that, by the practice of dharma, natural gratitude is practiced. We don't have to say thank you. In our Indian system, actually, see, like in the Western system, children are taught to say thank you, and it's all over the place, right? Everybody says thank you. Like you are now, you and I are brought up in that system, so we are also saying thank you, sorry to each other. But I should share my own experience with this, that because I'm also groomed like this, and I still do that. So when I started going to Vrindavan and associating with scholars of our thing and people who are following this, and I was saying thank you, sorry, and all that. So eventually one guy came to me and said, देखो ये thank you sorry सब नहीं होता है यहाँ पर, सिर्फ का सेवा करो बस. Thank you sorry तो सब अपने आप हो जाता है. You don't have to say it. So they thought it was very funny. They were not saying thank you sorry to each other. They were just doing their job. They told me that it doesn't work here, and that's true. They're not saying that we should not be grateful. They're only saying that it's not explicitly expressed because it's implicitly understood. So similarly with love, we don't say I love you. We don't see this. We don't write notes, post-it notes, and put it up somewhere and say, like in the Western system, these things are considered as ways to improve bonding between people. Right? To explicitly say that I like you, I love you. But here you don't see that. Even a mother to a child may never say, I love you. I love you, my dear child, you're so sweet. No, the mother shows love. The child experiences love. Similarly, mother experiences the love of the child through the actions of the child, right? In the actions, in the words that we speak, that love, gratitude, etc., are communicated. So, gratitude is something not only part of bhakti yoga, but it's part of all yoga. And of course, the way in which you feel the gratitude may differ. The emotions that you experience in karma yoga may differ from the emotions you experience in jnana, karma, bhakti, and so on. That may be different, but implicitly, all of them, all aspects of dharma, even which is not yoga, has gratitude built into it. Ashita, you want to say something on this? You want to reflect more on this? Is that what you had in mind when you asked something like what I spoke now, or do you have something else in mind when you talked about gratitude related to bhakti yoga?
So, I specifically had that because I'm so thankful to God for everything. That is why, I'm more into Bhakti Yoga. That's the
Yeah,
thought I had.
yeah. Yeah. So yes, you feel the gratitude. You feel that we feel, but so that's true. Like I just said, it's part of bhakti yoga, no doubt. Yeah. So I gave an answer which went beyond what you wanted to know. I said it's part of the whole system. Yes, in bhakti you feel that way, that uh, Bhagavan, everything comes from him, and I'm obliged to his seva because he himself is doing it, and so I should do that. Yes. So we'll talk about bhakti in more detail as we go forward. This focus on bhakti itself as a separate topic. We'll go into details. Dharma is the overarching theme of IKS. Nyayikatva, which means abiding by institutional rules, local law, and religious injunction, also a part of Dharma, yes. Can we study Dharma in industrial relations? If yes, how? So, Ashita, can you elaborate a bit on this question? How does this question come to your mind?
So specifically, this question is come. So we are attending a class on research on industrial relations. And since I want to work in the field of IKS, so what I'm trying to do is to do all my term papers in IKS.
Yeah.
So I'm somewhat trying to connect, like, I want to do something related to IKS and industrial relation if that is a possibility. So in industrial relation, we talk about labor's right. We talk about humanizing their conditions, like they are exploited and all of that. And what is the role of gender there? So can we draw something from IKS? And because specifically Dharma talks about this thing, local law and religious injunctions, I'm not even sure whether it is making sense or not. So I
Yeah,
just
yeah, of
have
course.
your opinion on that.
Well, just off my mind, I can say that because I haven't gone much into the kind of things involved in industrial relations as a subject. So off my mind, I can say yes, anything where there are human beings and human interaction and rules being applied to human beings and fairness and unfairness, I guess, is a big thing in industrial relations. So when there is talk about fairness, unfairness, just, unjust, kind, unkind, so these things obviously connect to dharma in some way. So I think we can bring in dharma into the picture. Probably for your term paper, you would like to look at the way in which Mahabharata, Mahabharata actually has a whole universe of so many narratives which deal with how different human beings deal with each other, which are about interactions between the good and the bad, between dharmic and adharmic. Like the most common one is Yudhishthira and Duryodhana, or Yudhishthira and Dhritarashtra. Similarly, Dhritarashtra and Vidura, dharma, adharma. So these interactions, they throw a lot of insight into how human relationships, human beings' expectations of each other, the presence of values like greed on one side and kindness on the other side, compassion, tolerance on one side, and intolerance, you can say cruelty, wickedness on the other side. So, how they come together, how they interact with each other, and how the people who have these qualities, how they handle each other is very interesting. So, I think you can bring in dharma in industrial relations through that. Sarthak, would you like to say something on this question?
No, sir, nothing specifically comes to my mind.
Okay. Think over it too, but later on you can also add something. Ashita, shall I go forward? We will think more about it as we go
Yes.
forward.
Thank you, sir.
Is it possible to connect IKS, gender, and industrial relations? Yeah, so I think we can. We can look at how the role of gender also in the IKS, like Draupadi, for example. Actually, one very wrong way in which Draupadi is talked about today by people who haven't studied IKS in its native form is Draupadi as a victim of, being a woman. Being a woman, she was victimized. She had to marry five people. She had to serve five husbands. Because today we see a lot of, or at least some places we see women being exploited by their in-laws, right? We hear about stories of marital, abuse and rape and this and that, all kinds of things we hear, which is true. In today's society, we do hear about these things, and definitely that's not what IKS teaches. IKS does not teach discrimination against women or does not teach women as inferior. No way. If you look at Draupadi, the correct way to understand Draupadi is that Draupadi actually was an inspiration to the Pandavas. By her own example, the way in which she conducted herself, the way in which she withstood so much difficulty in her life, she inspired them. She was the object of their love in the first place, even before it came to her, suffering. The moment she was married, first of all, she was an aspire. She was aspired for, right? The Pandavas had to compete with so many others to, Arjuna had to compete with others to get her as a wife. It is not that she was forced upon him by some arranged marriage or something. He had to go and shoot an arrow with his expertise and then finally had to fend off so many other envious kings and win her. So he won her. She was a trophy and she was aspired for. Okay. So which means in his mind, she is a jewel. She's a very, very valuable thing. And when he came back, he found that he had to also share her as a wife with four other brothers, for which he had no problem. And all the five of them looked at her with love, with care. They saw her as somebody very dear to them. They took care of her. She was not exploited. So that's a wrong way of understanding Draupadi. And Draupadi was an inspiration. She was not just a pampered wife or something. She was an inspiration to them. She went through her struggles. There are many conversations in which she gives wisdom. Her wisdom is highly appreciated in the Bhagavad-gita. So to understand how gender is looked at, some of these examples like Draupadi or for that matter Gandhari and other women who have been prominently highlighted in texts like Mahabharata or Ramayana, Sita, so we should look at these examples and see the actual native texts which describe them in detail. Then the role of IKS, gender in IKS will come out, and that should be brought into these conversations connected to industrial relations management. It'll make a big difference, I think. Shall I go forward? I've not given you any specific answer, but I think there's a lot to be done there. It's
Yes.
good that you can bring it out in your work. So one thing I want to also tell you here, yesterday also I was speaking to Professor Kumar Alok. We had a meeting with Equus and I was talking about both of you, Ashita in particular, because you're doing this course. So we also spoke about another student who has now left the program. She's no longer in the program, but she was interested in something connected to IKS. She couldn't sustain it somehow, and she has left now. So he was telling me that sometimes it's difficult for students to go into everything during the 4-year program. And I agree with him because our IKS texts are huge. And obviously, in a short duration program like this, you have to complete your thing in 4 years and you have to read a lot of other things also. You can't be reading only IKS texts. So during this program, you can look at some narrow, region of IKS, which you can zoom into and go into detail. Like for example, Vidura Niti or or the Shanti Parva, some portions of Shanti Parva of Mahabharata where Bhishma is advising Yudhishthira. Or it's a Sundarakand of Ramayana, Hanuman's, going to Lanka and then burning Lanka, coming back, and the way Hanuman, analyzing Hanuman's character, looking at some narrow topic like this and seeing how that can be brought into your thesis if it is possible. Otherwise, just do your thesis the way that it can be done, in a smooth and complete manner, bringing in whatever little you can, and later on in your career, expand into IKS. Because once you finish your PhD, then you are at a different level, right? You will be looked at in a different way. You will get a career, and you will have much more freedom to work. And whole life you can do IKS. You can spend 20 years going into all the texts and writing numerous papers, books, and so on. This is one way to look at it. And I thought I'll share this because I don't want you to be lost. I want you to be, going forward all the time. Good. So now anything further? Shall we move forward? Vedangi, anything from your side?
So just one question.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand, are the paths of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga independent of each other, or are there or at some point do they converge?
Bhakti as a process is called Swayam Prabala, means for doing Bhakti Yoga, one doesn't have to do karma or jnana before. Karma and jnana are interrelated, means one cannot start off doing jnana yoga right from day one, unless one has done this earlier in their past lives and one already has a certain level of detachment and one is able to fix one's mind very steadily. One is already not interested in the mundane world. Normally, for most people, karma yoga is the starting point. And that eventually, because of purification of consciousness, one becomes eligible to perform jnana yoga later. So, therefore, there is a interdependence between, or at least the dependence of jnana yoga on prior performance of karma yoga. Now, both karma and jnana, they need some element of bhakti. I won't use the word bhakti yoga. I would say they need bhakti amsha. They need an amsha, some fragment of bhakti in them to be successful. Because it's only through bhakti when one connects with Bhagavan. It's through Bhagavan that through bhakti that one really connects with Bhagavan. Through karma and jnana, one is more at a transactional level. One performs one's dharma with certain, uh, you know, commitment to purification, certain commitment to detachment. But one is not really connected to Bhagavan, that one gets through bhakti. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishateta anantaram. So one's connection with Bhagavan, which is required to make real progress beyond the three gunas of Prakriti, is possible only through bhakti. And so, even in Karma Yoga, to make substantial progress in Karma Yoga, some element of that Seva Bhav, that worship of Bhagavan, offering to Bhagavan is required. And so it is with Jnana Yoga too. In Jnana Yoga too, one can make enormous progress in Jnana Yoga until the last stage of Jnana Yoga, which one is very sattvic. One can see oneself very clearly. One doesn't depend upon the material nature at all. It's a very high stage of Jnana Yoga. But if one has to get mukti, which is the goal of Jnana Yoga, moksha, then one has to perform bhakti, one has to perform seva. This is true in the process of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a methodology through which we practice karma, Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. In that also, ultimately in samadhi, one performs bhakti. And through bhakti, one becomes mukta. Bhakti is the means to mukti. But bhakti by itself, bhakti yoga by itself is independent of karma and jnana. It doesn't require anything. It directly connects with God. So Vedangi, have I addressed your question or do you have a follow-up question on this for more clarity?
No, sir. Understood. Thank you.
Okay, good. Now I'll move forward. I'll go back to the PPT. Here is where I was. Okay, so we've begun talking about dharma. Now let's go to the next thing. Here, this is the slide I prepared for you to make it more clear. Whatever I said in the last PPT, dharma is represented or operationalized or experienced by us through our behavior, our relationships with others, our commitment to following the rules, wherever we are, in the context we are, and our pursuit of God and pursuit of ourself. This is how dharma is actually practiced, operationalized, and lived. That's how we live dharma. And dharma leads to these things: sustained well being, consciousness purification, and a better state of future existence. So, this framework makes it clear what dharma is about and where it takes us. What do we get by doing dharma? And an important thing to see here, which I also mentioned in the last slide, is that dharma is not only for oneself, it's not an activity of selfishness. Of course, it has a component of self interest, but it's actually an activity of selflessness. Dharma is grounded in the thinking of selflessness. Seva bhav is the perfection of selflessness. But even in basic dharma, where we are not looking for that level of seva bhav, there is selflessness inbuilt into it. And therefore, whenever an activity of dharma is done, not only does the person doing dharma benefit, but everybody benefits a lot. When I say everybody, I mean everyone who is connected to that. So if you're living in a particular society or community and you're doing activities of dharma, many other people in that society also get benefited by that, even if they did not do dharma. Even if they are adharmic, the person's dharma benefits them too. Okay, so dharma creates what is called as positive externalities in the language of economics. Positive externality means I do something, it benefits others too, right? So we can give the example of, let's say, lighting agarbatti. Okay, if you light a very good, let's say sandal, pure sandal, high quality sandal agarbatti, then you light it basically because you want your room and everything, you're part of your worship or part of making your house feel good. But you end up making other people also, people, anybody who is passing by. Okay, now in India, you go to any market, any busy market, you will find that in the shops they light these agarbattis and they find this dhoop and so on. So the person passing on the street also experiences the fragrance of that. Dharma is like that. Now, these are some typical values, behaviors, qualities, okay, associated with dharma. I mentioned a few of them. I mentioned here 10 of them. Ahimsa, harmlessness; satya, truthfulness; akrodha, freedom from anger; dana, activities of giving to others, generosity; abhaya, fearlessness; aparigraha, non-possessiveness; atma sanyama, self-discipline; daya or kindness; kshama, tolerance; dama means control over the external senses. So these are all examples of values, behaviors, actions that we talk about when we talk about dharma. And there are many, many more. There are so many texts in the different shlokas, so many other words are used. They're all in some way interconnected to each other. Uh, there is, for example, harmlessness. This means it's not just about not killing others, but not harming or not troubling another living being, living in a way that किसी को परेशान नहीं करना. So, like I said, it's operationalized through our actions, bodily actions, through our words and mind. Kayika, Vachika, Manasika. And very important last point here, it's not only towards fellow human beings, but also towards animals, birds, insects, plants. So a person who has the maturity in dharma, who's mature in their understanding of dharma, if they see, for example, I mean, this looks funny, but it's true. You'll see people when if you see, for example, a small insect is drowning in water, let's say in the bathroom, you find an insect, a small butterfly has fallen there in the water in the bathroom on the floor and is struggling. Normally, most people may not care. After all, it's a small insect. Water will come and it will wash it away. But a person who is very conscious about the idea of dharma and committed to saying that I will live a dharmic life and is contemplating on that will immediately see that insect which is suffering and probably find some way to pick it up from that water and place it somewhere where it's not suffering anymore. Okay, I'm giving a simple example of how dharma makes us sensitive to others' suffering, and not only human suffering, but the suffering of fellow animals, birds, insects, even small ants. We don't want to. There's a famous story. I'll tell you the story in much more detail later, but the story of Jada Bharata, where Jada Bharata is caught by some kings because he's roaming around. He's a jnani actually. He's got very high level of jnana, atma jnana, and he has run away. He's left his family. He's gone. He's just roaming around because his family is involved in normal dharma and he's not interested in it. He's a jnani and he's walking around somewhere, and a king is moving by along with his whole retinue, and the king is carried on a palanquin, and there are people carrying the palanquin bearers. They are carrying the palanquin, and the king is moving along that, and there are some, let's say, 8 to 10 palanquin bearers on both sides of the palanquin. They're holding it strong, and then suddenly they find one of them is not able to continue because of some injury or something. So they're looking for a guy to replace, and they find this guy. They find Jada Bharata walking there, and they catch him. They say that, okay, now you seem to be not having any work to do, so please come and join us and carry the palanquin with us. He's a great king here going by. You are fortunate to become a palanquin bearer of a king. They don't know who he is. They don't know that he is a Mahagyani. So they catch him and then they make him carry that. So as he is carrying, because he is in that state of jnana, he sees some insects, some ants. He sees a line of ants walking there, and he is trying to avoid them. The path on which they are walking is actually the same path on which the ants also are moving. So he has to step on them. If he is walking normally, he would step on the ants. So what he does is he's watching the ants and he steps, he steps in such a way that he doesn't step on the ant. He places his footsteps very carefully so the ants are not trampled. So that breaks the rhythm because these all the others who are carrying the palanquin, they are walking in a particular rhythm so that the palanquin is smoothly, goes forward smoothly. But because this guy is walking like this, it breaks everybody's rhythm. So the other bearers are telling him, no, no, don't walk like that. Walk properly. The king will get disturbed. But he doesn't listen to them because his mind is focused on those ants which are on the ground. So he doesn't hear what they are saying. He's just looking at that. And then the king opens the thing. The king realizes that it's not the other bearers, this fellow, this new fellow who has been recruited. He doesn't know how to walk properly. The king opens the curtain of the palanquin and puts his head outside and then starts scolding him. He says, very sarcastically, he says that, what do you think you're doing? Are you very intelligent? You know how to walk in a special way? He scolds him using some sarcastic language. And then Jadabharata stops. I all stop. Everybody stops. And then Jadabharata gives him a response. And he gives him a very philosophical response to that question. Looking at what the king has said, he gives him a response by which the king is stunned. The king did not expect that response. The king just expected this guy to apologize and start walking properly. But he gets a response from Jadabharata, which is very deeply philosophical in nature, which is filled with Atma Gyan in it. And so when he gets that response, the king is shocked actually. But the king, being himself a very, dharmic person and also interested in Atma Gyan, actually the king is on his way to meet Kapila Muni somewhere. And it is said that the king actually was looking for Atma Gyan. And now, here is a guy who is talking about that Atma Gyan in a very sober way. So the king gets down from the palanquin and he bows down to Jadabharata. And then he says that I'm sorry, I did not know who you are. You seem to be a very learned person, so please educate me. So this story goes on, and a lot of more details are there, but I won't go into all that. What I wanted to say was that the story is given in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavata Purana. It's a very beautiful story. And here you can see in the story how this person, he is very sensitive. His level of jnana has made him very sensitive. And this is where dharma takes us eventually. Now, adharma is the opposite, and you can see the qualities listed in adharma are all seen in this. So when we read Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc., we should be able to quickly contrast the characters who represent dharma and the characters who represent adharma. So you'll see Duryodhana, for example, himsa, harmfulness. He all the time wants to harm somebody else. Falsity, asatya, he's lying. Kama, selfish desire. Krodha, anger. Lobha, greed. Damba means duplicity, hypocrisy. Darpa means arrogance, pride. Dvesha, hatred. Krurata, cruelty, wickedness. Chapalata, looseness or whimsicality. So these kind of qualities are associated with adharma along with many, many other undesirable qualities too. And when we become knowledgeable about dharma, automatically knowledge of adharma also is obtained. We know what we should not be, what we should avoid. Right? So this is the contrast between dharma and adharma, and all our shastra actually revolves around this. Even like I said, shastra which is not directly talking about this implicitly has dharma and adharma built into it. Okay, now this is very important. Dharma is the distinction in manavata. It distinguishes the manava from the amanava. The shloka from the Hitopadesha is a very, very important shloka. It is taught to school children in our system. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunancha samanametat pashubhir naranam dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hinaf pashubhis samanaha. Very, very beautiful shloka, very beautifully composed with a very impactful message. It says there are four things which are common to human beings and animals. What are those four things? Food, sleep, ahara, nidra, fear, bhaya, and sex life, mithunam or maithunam. So these four things, looking for food, feeling hunger or the craving for eating something all the time, sleeping, feeling fear, the need for a protection, the need to have a security. We take insurance, we build a house, we form different types of security. We make friendships because of fear of somebody else. So fear is a dominant human feeling. It's also there in animals. Sex life, animals also have it, human beings also do it. Now these four things are common. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha samanam etat samanam pashubhihi naranam. What is there in animals is also present in human beings in these four things. Now, does it mean that human beings are also animals because of this? He says no. Look at the second line. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. There is one factor which distinguishes human beings from animals, and that is dharma. What he means by dharma is this manava dharma, what we talk about as manava dharma. The inquiry into what is it that is good for me? What is it that can take me to a higher state of existence? What is it that can uplift me? That thinking is not present in animals. That thinking is present only in human beings. Only human beings ask this question, how can I improve myself? How can I become better? How can I live my best life? Okay, today a lot of motivational texts talk about what is my best life? How do I live my best life? And there's so much advice we get. So this is the thinking of dharma. How can I become better? How can I live a better life? How can I feel more happiness? Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. And therefore, the last part of the shloka, he concludes, dharmena hinaha pashubhis samana. If a person is devoid of dharma, then essentially that person is only an animal. Just because the person, speaks in good English, or just because the person wears a suit and a tie and, looks like civilized, we say civilized human being. So what we mean by civilized human being is actually an animal, unless there is dharma present in them. On the other hand, somebody who does not look civilized by their appearance, somebody who may be wearing tattered clothes or may have maybe unshaven and have tattered hair, maybe wearing matted locks. Some of our great sages, you see just matted locks. They look wild. What is described in English as a wild appearance. They may look wild in appearance, but because they are strictly following dharma in their life, they are not at all animals. They're far from animals. They are the real human beings. Human beings are people who know dharma and follow dharma, not people who appear civilized externally. Western civilization, appearance matters. In IKS, it is the inner quality, character. That is dharma. And character is not just superficial character, but dharma, real inner character. That is what is the meaning of dharma. So dharma is the distinction in Manavata. And this is told in a text which is not even a very philosophical text. This is Hitopadesh. Hitopadesh is a very basic text for ethics, morality, and so on. It's not even a text of like Mahabharata, which goes into philosophy, or like our Vedanta. It's far from that. But still, this very basic fact that you must practice dharma, and dharma is much deeper than superficial niceness or superficial appearance. Dharma is something deep inside. It's about inner transformation that is being brought out. So this is a very important shloka for us, and I want to take a small pause here in case you have anything to ask or say. Anybody?
So no questions from my end.
Good. Let me move forward now. Okay, so now I just wanted to also share with you how the IKS looks at human versus animal. One important thing to know here is, okay, of course, on the bodily definition of human versus animal, we do say, yes, human beings, there's one way in which distinction is made. For example, human beings, we walk on two legs, right? And our body, anatomically, we stand erect. We stand erect and we walk like this. But animals, we don't see, except sometimes. We see monkeys, some monkeys or chimpanzee. But even chimpanzees, gorillas, monkeys, many times they are crawling. They walk on all four. They don't stand erect. That's not their normal or dominant behavior. Even for a chimpanzee, walking on four legs is normal, crawling, right? In human beings, we see that only in its child stage. When a child is newborn, after a few months, it starts crawling on all fours. And after some time, it learns to walk. By about 8 or 9 months of age or 1 year, it starts walking. And once it starts walking, it doesn't go back to crawling. It continues to grow that way. So that is one way in which distinction is made through their external, you can say, the way in which walking or behavior of standing erect is done. And you say tiryang. Tiryang prani means that which is horizontal. Tiryang means horizontal and vertical. Human beings are vertical. But that's not what is the more fundamental way of distinguishing. More fundamentally, the IKS says there are 8.4 million species of life. So here, 8.4 million species is not the same as what modern biology classifies as species. The word species is an English translation, but it's not the same as the biology species. It means consciousness-based distinction. Now, of these, 8 million includes everything other than what is called as human or higher than human. Okay, like plants, animals, birds, reptiles, aquatics, and all the different bodies that we see, they largely span these 8 billion. And the remaining 4 lakh or 0.4 million include what we call as Manava. Manava are we. We are Manava or Manushya. Manava and higher than Manava, like Devas. Devas are also in these 4 lakhs. But they are not called Manavas. They are called Deva. Similarly, we say Siddha or Charana or Gandharva or Apsara or all these words we hear, Siddha. They are not just mythological beings. They are described in the IKS as living beings like us, like Manavas, Jivatmas. Jivatmas in a higher level of consciousness. Now, among all the Jivatmas in the material world, in the material samsara, in the material universe, Brahma is the person who is at the highest level. In these 4 lakh also, the highest is Sri Brahma. And the lowest are Manavas, people like us, right? And similarly, there are so many others. So within Manavas also, you'll find several levels of consciousness based on the three gunas. All the consciousness levels in the material existence are based on the three gunas. all these 8 million, 8.4 million are all based on the influence of the three gunas. So within the human beings, whatever number is there, that is also distinguished. There are people, human beings at a higher level of consciousness who are more conscious about dharma, who are keen to improve themselves and experience better existence in the future through practice of dharma. And there are people who don't give a damn about it, people who are just involved in mundane life, completely absorbed in matter, and so on. So, these levels of consciousness which distinguish species and not just the bodily anatomical features or DNA. Now, dharma is the natural instinct for non human beings, their dharma. Like I said, tiger has its own dharma, cow has its own dharma. This is for non human beings. It's only in human birth that we inquire into the purpose of life or the meaning of life. Human birth is very rare. Many times in the IKS, this is said that the Jivatma goes through all this 8.4 billion. It goes through the 8.4 million according to karma phala. So the Jivatma currently in the human body, a Manushya Janma, if that Jivatma performs a lot of papa, lives a life of pap, then in a future birth, maybe in the immediate future birth also, that human being may get the body of an animal or a plant, like a tree. Right? It is said that somebody with extreme levels of lust, especially sexual desire, lot of lust, wanting to enjoy the body of another human being, such a person will be born as a tree in the future. Because a tree is a position where that person has no freedom almost, just stands in a single place, can only breathe in and breathe out, but nothing else. So that's a punishment given to somebody who is extremely lusty or greedy or very wicked and so on. So human birth is very rare, and if lived without purpose, it is wasted. Dharma is what gives purpose and meaning to life. That's the best way to give meaning to life. Okay, not just wealth. Today we have again a lot of literature talking about motivation and how to become successful and this and that, success literature. And essentially, that's good. I mean, the success literature also tells us things which we don't hear otherwise. It tells us about being disciplined, getting up early in the morning, being fit, and so on. Those things are good for life, but they don't talk about dharma in the true sense. They talk about dharma in a very faint sense. Real dharma is this, what we are talking about here in the Shastra. That gives real purpose and meaning to life, which elevates us in a very sustained manner, in a very stable manner.
Sir, I have a question here.
Yes.
So when we say that dharma gives purpose and meaning to life, and uh, if we do not have any purpose, it is wasted. So by purpose, here we mean that uh, practicing bhakti yoga,
That,
being like devoting ourselves to God. Is this what we are talking about?
that's one example of purpose, yes. Those who are attracted to bhakti, like you, for example, uh, that's a purpose that dharma gives because you are attracted to dharma and in dharma bhakti. Bhakti is one form of dharma, bhakti yoga. Yes, but more generally, in whatever way, but all of it is connected to elevating oneself. When somebody practices even samanya dharma, the society in which they grow up tells them that, look, do dharma, don't do adharma. When they do something wrong, they say you are doing something that's adharma. You'll go down. Do dharma, you'll get swarga. Okay, swarga is a materialistic goal, but even that is a purpose. It's better than being a manava, become a deva. So dharma gives purpose in that way, in a more general way.
So this purpose is related to different aspects of life, like purpose in career, purpose in our personal life, or is it like completely different? Is it related to God only, or is it related to our professional life, personal life,
Okay,
and
I
purpose
get
in
what you're
general?
saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah. So what I'm referring to by purpose here is, yes, ideally connected to God, but even if it's not connected to God, it is something that is divine in nature because it takes us to something higher. So a purpose I'm talking about here is about the larger purpose of this life. Why am I living? At the end of this life, what should I achieve? That's the ultimate purpose of one particular birth, right? Now, that you can break down further, because obviously with just one larger overall purpose, you may not get clarity on how to live your daily life. What should I do today? Right? My larger purpose, I'm going to live for 100 years. So at the end of 100 years, I should achieve this. But then what about today, tomorrow, and so on? What should I do? What should my day-to-day activities be like? So we break down that purpose into smaller goals. Okay, by the age of this much, I should have completed this goal. Like now, in the next 4 years, I should complete my PhD. That's a goal, that's a purpose. But that purpose, in the context of Dharma, is linked to the larger purpose of overall elevation of consciousness. Now, one may think, for example, on the path of Dharma, that I am doing PhD today because I want to get a stable career. Through doing this PhD, I'll be able to position myself in a proper career. And through that career, I'll be able to live a life which will elevate me. I'll be in a better position to practice the bhakti that I want to practice. I want to practice bhakti. I'm practicing bhakti today, but I want to go to an even better state of practicing bhakti and improve my commitment to bhakti. I want to learn more. I want to read more. I want to also teach others. And I'll be better positioned if I complete my PhD quickly and go there. So the PhD therefore becomes a purpose in connection to the larger purpose. You see? So the larger purpose helps us to define more short-term purposes. The short-term goals come from the picture and the understanding of the larger term goal, and so on. So that way we will have many, many smaller purposes and sub-purposes as part of the larger purpose. True.
Yes, so because I've seen people like who do not have purpose, they do not want to live anymore. And this I'm
Oh,
talking about people of my generation, like my age group. So
absolutely.
at this young age, they're like, I don't see anything like any future or and like they're happily married and everything, but still they say that I don't see any future, I don't have any purpose, life is very boring and there's nothing to look forward to.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that also leads. So one of my friend, because of because of this reason only, she is having suicidal thoughts sometimes
Right.
because she
Very
doesn't
good.
have purpose.
Exactly. Very good. Your friend is not alone. It's not a unique case. It's today rampant. Even among our MBA students, we have students like that. That's why they go to counselors to help them to get some meaning in life and so on. So this will never happen to somebody who is groomed in dharmic thinking. This kind of situation will not happen if somebody is groomed in dharmic thinking. In fact, that is how many people, motivational speakers, success speakers, they become successful because of the presence of a big population who's not finding meaning in life. Because they're looking for meaning in life, a lot of literature helps them to find that meaning. And that is why motivational books and books they make success. But then, like I said, they take you to some place. They definitely improve your life. They give you some meaning in life. That is better than having no meaning in life, even though that meaning may be materialistic. But even that is something. So a person who is like that, completely lost, should at least have something to pursue, which gives them some reason to exist. And then they can talk about dharma too in the future. Vedangi, yes. Vedangi.
Sir, I wanted to understand. What does IKS? So in like in all the systems within IKS, what are the thoughts on motivation?
What are the thoughts on motivation? Can you elaborate a little bit on your question so I can understand it better?
Okay. So we were discussing this in Kumar Alok sir's class that in terms of motivation, what we say is that because so the motivation is coming from the the aspiration for seeking pleasure, and at the same time we also say that through motivation we are getting we are getting that pleasure. So there's this this contradiction between the outcome becoming an antecedent in itself. So he was saying that that sort of challenges the whole whole literature around motivation that is there. So I was trying to so I was just curious to know if there's something that IKS says which is different from other schools of thought.
IKS recognizes different levels of pursuits. Motivation to, like hedonistic motivation, motivation to enjoy the pleasures of the senses. That's hedonistic. IKS very much recognizes. A lot of Veda is about that. It's Karma Kanda portion where it tells you how to get the objects that you desire to enjoy in this world in a dharmic way. IKS also talks about motivation for the higher goal. So motivation comes from knowing about the goal, having clarity on what one wants to pursue, and IKS, there's no separate section called motivation. There's no motivation theory as such, but we see, injunctions talking about what one will get. Falashruti. There's something called Falashruti, which is given for motivating people. For example, when you let's say have something like Vishnu Sahasranam. Vishnu Sahasranam is 1,000 names of Vishnu, which Bhishma he narrated in the Mahabharata. It's recorded, and this is now chanted by different people as a part of their upasana, as a part of their sadhana. And during that time, at the end of the Vishnu Sahasranam, there's a Falashruti which says if somebody chants Vishnu Sahasranam daily, then they will get these benefits. A person who's this will get this benefit, a person who's that will get that benefit. Some material returns are given. Now, why is that told? There's no talk about bhakti there. It's told because that form of bhakti is talked about as something that gives one some material return. There's a motivation to do it. If that was not there, then why would the person want to chant? Now, because the person hears this, then they want to chant. They want to spend time doing that upasana. So motivation, therefore, is indirectly referred to in the IKS. I'm not aware of any place where a theory on motivation, like you find in your OB or psychology texts. I'm not aware if that is covered anywhere explicitly in the IKS texts.
Okay, sir.
Is
Thank
that
you.
what you were asking? Yeah. Okay. Now, here I wanted to just mention one thing. Um, you said something about a contradiction. You said outcome influencing the antecedent as a contradiction. Actually, no. In systems thinking, we talk about two-way relationships. Two-way relationship means A influences B and B influences A in return. That's called reinforcement. So when somebody is influenced by the goal, say the thought of the goal motivates one to achieve that goal. So motivation takes one towards the goal. Motivation makes one perform the goal, and goal achievement in turn increases motivation. When one achieves some amount of that goal, then one feels even more motivated to pursue that goal and get even higher.
Mhm.
So there is a reinforcement, there's a loop there. So there's no contradiction in two-way. I mean, it's not a contradiction, I'm saying. It's like it's to be understood as a holistic thing.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So I'll talk about systems thinking to both of you if you're interested, because in your research it can be very useful to talk about feedback loops. Google on this later
Mm.
on. After this class, you can
Okay.
Google on this word systems thinking and feedback loops. So you'll see a lot of literature there which helps you to represent your thinking. It helps you to actually think better. If you're able to understand systems thinking, your research thinking improves. So I would recommend both of you to also read about it. And I'll also help you with that because I've taught that as a subject to students before.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Sarthak.
Sir, I had an observation in regards to what Ashita talked about purpose. So one thing that came to my mind is that our Indian knowledge systems is broadly categorized into two parts. One is the Pravritti Marga and the second is the Nivritti Marga. And
Yes.
both of these are dharma oriented. So Pravritti one is the materialistic one. So there we are not talking about higher goals, what Vedanta is talking about. But these two margas have ultimately four purusharthas. So dharma purushartha, artha purushartha, and kama purushartha, these all fall in the pravritti marga, and the moksha purushartha, it's the nivritti marga. So again, if there are people, so everyone has their own tastes or what they think is really giving them happiness. So what we, after all analysis and listening to scriptures, etc., we arrive that okay, we want eternal happiness. But again, there are people who would not find meaning or sense in what we are talking, and they would want some different kind of pleasure. So, for example, in the IKS systems, we have this desire to go to the Svargaloka. So that is one pursuit. The other pursuit that could be is that finding skill in your action. So I want to be the best tennis player that anyone has ever seen, or I want to be the best athlete, or maybe to develop a very fine sense of an interest or appreciation in music. So the Kama Purushartha, indulging in the senses, and in a finer way, not just uh, like animals, but you develop that taste, your inner instruments as per dharma to enjoy the kama purushartha and artha purushartha and dharma purushartha, and that is why those are purusharthas, because those align with dharma. So that is present in the Indian knowledge system. I just wanted to place that. That's it.
Thank you, Sarthak. Wonderful answer. That clarifies more on the idea of purpose and goals that we human beings pursue. In fact, just 2 or 3 slides ahead from here, I have prepared Purushartha. I wanted to talk about Purushartha, all the 4 Purusharthas, and Panchama Purushartha, which is Prema. So I'll be just coming to that. So you have given a curtain raiser for that. Thank you. Yeah, so finally in this slide, Dharma makes a human being human. Now I'll go forward a little bit more, and I wanted to also emphasize how Bhagavad-gita brings in Dharma. Bhagavad-gita is a text grounded in Dharma, and Sri Bhagavan explicitly says this. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham. Yes, yada yada means whenever. 2 times he's saying this. Dharmasya glanihi, whenever there is a deterioration or decline in the system of dharma, then he says, along with that, there is a adharma increase. When dharma decreases, adharma increases. So because of the increase of adharma, that dharma decreases. So two are mutually connected to each other. So abhyutthanam adharmasya, adharma increases, tada atmanam srijamyaham. I manifest myself. And he adds to this in this next shloka by saying paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. Now he is specifying what he will do. Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To protect the people who are sadhus, the saintly people, and to destroy those who are wicked or eliminate those who are wicked, and to re-establish dharma. I appear every now and then. So this is very important. The whole Gita is about parodharma, means going beyond samanya dharma and going into parodharma, or going towards the nivritti marga. Now, this is a very important shloka from the Manusmriti, and this shloka is repeated in multiple other places too. It's not only in Manusmriti, but it comes in other IKS texts too. Dharma eva hato hanti dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Tasmad dharmo na hantavyo mano dharmo hato vadhit. So this should be memorized, and this is taught again to school children in our schools, in our school system. Even today in many schools it is taught. Dharma eva hato hanti dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. What does it mean? It means if dharma is killed, dharma eva hato hanti. Literal translation. It's very difficult to translate this shloka because the way in which the words are composed, if you literally translate it, you can't read this in English. Hato hanti means dharma that is killed kills. Dharma eva hato hanti means hataha dharmaha hanti. Hataha dharmaha means dharma that is killed. Hanti kills. Similarly, rakshitaha dharmaha rakshati. Dharma that is protected protects. In other words, in order to be living a happy life, we should protect dharma and we should not destroy dharma. So dharma ought not to be killed. Tasmat dharmo na hantavyo. Dharma should never be killed. It should always be protected. Then it says, mano dharmo hato vidit. May it never happen that dharma that is killed by us kills us. So very important shloka. Dharma should always be protected very carefully. That is why in the Vedic system, people went out of their way to ensure they sacrificed a lot of personal comfort, everything to ensure that dharma always reigns supreme. And this is the job of a king. A Kshatriya, a king, is supposed to do this. Just like today, the government is supposed to ensure that law is made and law is followed, both. So law is made and law is followed, and law is followed is particularly the responsibility of the police system. The police is meant to do that. They are the law implementing authority, right? So that is dharma. Yes, Ashita. You have a question?
No, sir.
Good. Moving forward, I'm just summarizing the discussion by contrasting dharma and adharma. Dharma is that which creates punya phalam, seeds of future happiness, and adharma is that which creates papa phalam, seeds of future misery. Dharma ensures sustenance, sustainability in human life and society. Adharma reduces the sustainability. So today we are talking a lot about sustainability. There's so much research. You will find that some of your colleagues, or maybe you also in your thesis, will touch upon this topic of sustainability. And we talk about how sustainability is being challenged because of so much industrialization, pollution, climate change, this, that. And it's because of adharma. That's the symptom. You see, when we say that sustainability is being challenged, it means we are practicing adharma. It's because we are doing adharma that sustainability is coming down. Dharma supports, nourishes, strengthens, reinforces. Adharma weakens, debilitates, destroys, annihilates. Dharma brings long-term peace, prosperity, happiness to all. Adharma, it increases mistrust, unrest, divisiveness, misery, and so on. All those things connected to that. Dharma is for human beings and adharma is not for human beings. So this slide summarizes all that we have discussed so far. So going forward, I wanted to go into the Purusharthas, which Sarthak just introduced into our conversation. And I'll just show you the slide. We still have some time, so I can quickly go through it too. But if you have any question anytime, just stop me. Okay, so I've listed it like this. Purushartha Chatushtayam, the four Purusharthas, and Panchama Purushartha, the four Purusharthas which are dominantly talked about in the IKS explicitly, and what is talked about in a Gupta manner, in a hidden way in the Bhagavatam, and in some other text too, indirectly, is called the Panchama Purushartha. So what are they? The first is Dharma, adherence to Dharma, all the rules, regulations, the behavioral norms, expectations is Dharma. And this earns punya, it ensures current and future well-being for all. The second Purushartha is Artha. Artha refers to material wealth, power, fame, social status, possessions, material returns in general, different types of things that we aim for as a return specifically, which is not normally talked about in Dharma. Dharma basically means following the tenets of sustainability, which we talked about just now. Artha is specific goals, specific returns that you're looking for. Okay, that is called Artha, which is in accordance with Dharma. It's meant to be practiced in accordance with Dharma. The third is Kama. Kama refers to specifically the gross and subtle pleasures of the senses and the mind, different ways in which we enjoy through our senses. Basically, when we say senses, we talk about the five Jnanendriyas, the knowledge acquiring senses, which are the Chakshurindriyam, the Granendriyam, Shravanendriyam, sense of seeing, smelling, hearing, then Rasanendriyam, the sense of taste, and the sense of touch, or Tvagindriyam, and then the mind, sixth indriyam. The sixth sense is the mind. And so these six senses, the Shad Indriyani, you can say, and also the subtle ways in which we give pleasure to them. So one is the gross ways in which we can enjoy these senses, like through eating food and stuff like that. But the subtle ways in which we enjoy culture, we enjoy lifestyle, luxury, different skills. We observe a skilled artist or even a sports match, the skill of a sportsman, and we relish that, right? So karma manifests, or the fulfillment of karma happens through different activities, and the pursuit of that karma in accordance with dharma is itself a purushartha. It's different from what is listed as artha in the second item. Artha is specific material returns which can in turn fuel or help us to meet karma. And finally, the Chaturtha Purushartha is this moksha. Moksha means freedom from material bondage, suffering, and the basic definition of moksha is no material birth and death afterwards, means eternal existence. Existence in which one doesn't need a material body, one has their spiritual identity, and one exists in complete happiness forever. So this is moksha. Now, these four are the four Purusharthas which are spoken about broadly, and like Sarthak also pointed out, the first three are considered part of Pravritti Marga. That's a term given to them. Pravritti, in its most basic meaning of the word, the Sanskrit word Pravritti, means action or being active or endeavor, initiative. All these are translations of the word Pravritti in general. Here, Pravritti refers to the first engagement in the first three. Nivritti means non-action by default. By the Sanskrit word, nivritti means not doing anything or sitting, quiet. Being quiet, being silent, withdrawing. These are all connotations of nivritti. So that is associated with the word moksha because it means not engaging in materialistic activities, not engaging in mundane activities. The person who engages in sadhana done for moksha is called nivritti marga. He is doing activities of nivritti. So that's the distinction between pravritti marg and nivritti marg. Now, very important for all of us to know is the Panchama Purushartha. So it's the fifth one, but I have put it on the top because it's higher than these four. It is prema. Now, especially in some of the texts like Bhagavatam, prema is highlighted as something that stands apart from moksha. It is said that when somebody develops the taste for prema or desire for prema, then even the taste for moksha goes away. Even moksha looks very unattractive in front of prema. Moksha doesn't motivate that person anymore. They want prema. They say that even if I'm born again with a material body, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm born as a tree, it doesn't matter as long as I have prema. So in the Shikshashtakam, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he composed the Shikshashtakam. In one of the shlokas, he says, Na dhanam na janam na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari ishware bhavatat bhakti rahaitu kitvai na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhakti rahaitu kitvai. So he says that I'm not looking for money, na dhanam, na janam, I'm not looking for followers, na sundarim, I'm not looking for a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband, you can say, na kavita, not looking for fame as a scholar. He was a great scholar actually. So he said, I'm not looking for fame or recognition as a great scholar, kavita. Mama janmani janmanishware. What I want, I'm looking for is birth after birth, which means he's not looking for moksha also. Birth after birth, bhavatat bhakti ahaitukittvai. Let me have your costless bhakti, means bhakti which is spontaneous. Spontaneous bhakti, may that be my possession. I want that possession, which is prema. May I have that prema. Because it is said that the state of being in prema is the state in which Bhagavan is. Bhagavan is in that state of pure love towards everything. And in that state, the happiness that's experienced, the bliss, the ananda that is experienced is far higher than even the happiness of moksha. The happiness of moksha looks very small in front of the happiness of prema. And the happiness of moksha makes the other three, dharma, artha, kama, look very small. So moksha is far superior to dharma, artha, kama, but prema is far superior to moksha. So that is how these Panchama Purushartha are to be understood. I think I have just one more slide here, and yes, I highlighted this. And this slide basically sums up this from a different perspective. What Sarthak said, Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg, I term them as Samanya Dharma and Paradharma. Samanya Dharma is Pravritti Marg oriented with these three as the goals, and Paradharma is that which aims for either moksha or prema. It is Paradharma. So Samanya Dharma gives us happiness in material existence, in this birth and future births, which is good. In accordance with Dharma, that is a better way of being than being adharma, doing adharma. But if we really want the higher happiness, we should aim for this. moksha and prema, happiness and eternal existence. So with this, we conclude this discussion on dharma and adharma. We've done an overview and also touched upon the purusharthas, the 5 purusharthas. And we have come to the end of today's class, but if you have any quick questions, we can take that too.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes.
So I'm not able to understand this thing that when we are saying prem as a purusharth, where we are saying that like it is a pursuit of human life.
Yeah.
I'm not able to understand how like like, is it about seeking pure love towards God, or like I'm not able to understand how can an emotion be a seeking or an
Oh,
emotion can be a pursuit.
I got it. I got it. Good question, actually. I also had this doubt when I first came to this topic long back. Yes, prema is not just an emotion. The emotion of love that we experience is a result of what we call prema here. When I say prema here, I'm referring to a particular form of energy, a shakti, a particular shakti which is not present in us by default. It is not there in us now. So this Shakti is called the Antaranga Shakti of Bhagavan or Hladini Shakti. So Bhagavan, his ontology, there are different Shaktis described of him. One of them is called the Hladini Shakti. There are 3 Antaranga Shaktis actually, Hladini, Sandhini, Samvit. These are also called as Swarup Shakti. So Hladini, Sandhini, Samvit. And among them, Hladini is the Shakti which we are referring to as Prema Shakti. Prema. So that Shakti is, we say, for example, we talk about Radha and Krishna, right? So it's understood that Radha is the manifestation of that Shakti, that Prema Shakti, that Hladini Shakti. So this Shakti is not in the Jivatma. The Jivatma by itself has 2 other things. It has the feature of Sat, that is, it's eternal. Then without this Prema, the Jivatma's eternality is present. That Shakti is present in the Jivatma to be eternal. The other Shakti is the Shakti of its own knowledge. The Jivatma is knowledge, Jnana. So knowledge or Jnana is present in the Jivatma that I am the Jivatma. I am not different from this matter. I'm sorry, I am different from this matter. I am not this matter. So that is also present. But Prema or this Hladini Shakti, the Antaranga Shakti is not present in the Jiva. So when this Antaranga Shakti of Bhagavan is given to the Jivatma, then he gets this Prema. This is what we are referring to, something that we don't have. So this emotion, so the emotion that comes when that Hladini Shakti comes is what we are referring to here as prema. The emotion and that Shakti. Shakti and the emotion which comes with it. Not what we normally call as prema. Not what we normally in society say that emotional sentiment which we express towards God. If you go to any temple, you'll find people with a lot of emotion expressing themselves in front of God. We don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, we will talk more about Prema in a future course. So this course, we are talking about very introductory topics. So I just mentioned Prema here. But we'll do a course. There are several texts on Prema which go into great detail about what it is, how it's obtained, and so on. And we'll go into those texts too in the future. Ashita, you have a question to ask? Nothing? Okay.
No, sir. Until now, I just knew about these 4 Purusharthas. I did not know about Prem as a 5th Purusharth.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's called the Panchama Purushartha. The word Panchama is given to distinguish it from the other 4. The other 4 are talked about very frequently in the IKS literature. Okay, Sarthak, anything more from your side? Or should we close for today?
The prema is beyond thinking. So I think it's good that we put a stop to thinking for today.
Yeah, okay. Good. So we'll close with this Antyamangalam for today. And again, come back next week with more questions, doubts, and also I'll be happy to read any writing that you have done and we can discuss more. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all. Dhanyavada.